Gaze reading where the greats drop by. Trendy authors tell us all the who, what, and why. Anyone can listen, cause we're spoiler free. Gaze reading, from Pulitzer stars to book club picks, where the curious minds can get their fix. So you say you're not gay, well that's okay. There's something for everyone. Gaze reading.
Hello and welcome to Gaze Reading. I'm your host, Jason Blitman, and today is a really special episode of Gaze Reading. For the month of December, I wanted to sort of put books down for a minute and talk to people who are doing really interesting things in the book space that are not necessarily on our radar, as I share with my guest today. Just as I was thinking about this, I saw the Washington Post article that Dwayne was featured in. And of course, I knew that I had to have him on the show. So today's guest is Reginald Dwayne Betts, who is the CEO and founder of Freedom Reads, which you'll learn all about today. And part of what made today incredibly special is while we were talking, Dwayne got a call from a friend of his who is currently incarcerated. And so Jermaine became a part of the conversation, and it just made for, well, you'll hear it for yourself. Dwayne's book, Doggerel, is a book of poems that is out now. The link to that is in the show notes. And I'm hoping to get Dwayne out to the Palm Springs Book Festival that I'm producing. So we're working on that. And if you want to learn more about this book festival happening, check out psbookfest.org. There's an incredible lineup. It's happening the very end of March 2026. And I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be super great. So make sure to check that out as well. You could follow us on Instagram. We are at Gaze Reading. And just last week, I was in conversation with the author Ann Packer, who wrote Some Bright Nowhere, which is this month's Oprah's book club pick. And the recording of that conversation will be over on the Gaze Reading Substack. So if you are not familiar with the Substack, you can go check that out. Link to that is in the show notes. Links to all sorts of things you could find in the show notes. And, you know, I don't really want to take up too much of your time. I just want to sort of dive right into this episode. But the month of December, we have Dwayne this week. Next week is a really fun, super kind of random episode. And the last episode of December is with a literary icon. And I am just so excited to share that conversation as well. Anyway, lots of fun stuff coming up on Gaze Reading. And I'm so grateful to all of you for being here and being on this journey. Anyway, happy December. And now please enjoy my conversation with Dwayne Betts and his friend Jermaine. I'm sorry, you just lifted your hands and I saw all the bling that you have going on. I feel like I need to ask about those. You have a ring on every finger? I'm obsessed.
Yeah, 8. You know, it's weird too because I look at pictures of myself over the past 2 or 3 years and I see, you see yourself changing and literally I've had a physical metamorphosis, losing 60 pounds and going from, being married and wearing 1 ring all the time to not being married and wearing 8 rings. And it's interesting because the rings end up representing different moments in my life and things I picked up along the way, whether it's like this one at a particularly traumatic time in Portland, Oregon, or this one when I was in Tulsa. Just different rings, just the dragons and the things that I picked up at secondhand stores. All of it trying to capture a bit of who I'm becoming, I think, and who I've been.
Yeah, that's really cool and interesting, and I appreciate you sharing that with me.
Yeah, cool. Thank you for asking.
Yeah. Reginald Dwayne Betts, welcome to Gaze Reading. I'm so excited to have you here.
Yeah, man, I'm excited too. You know what I mean? It's cool.
I think so too. It is cool. I read so much for this podcast, and for the month of December, I was like, I want to talk to people who are doing really interesting things in the book world, people who have books that have been really impactful for them. And it just so happened that when I had that idea, the Washington Post article came out that featured you. And little did I know, you've been all over the place already. I was late to the Dwayne Betts party, but I'm so excited to be there.
I was late too, though. It's all right.
Listen, fashionably late is what's important, right?
Yeah.
So you are the founder and CEO of Freedom Reads. You are a Yale graduated lawyer. You have like a laundry list. You're a published author. You're a performer. What don't you do? Do you bake?
Do I bake? No, I don't bake. You know what? Though? I make a mean mushroom, a mean mushroom Wellington.
Oh,
Yeah, my son was a vegan for a couple years, and me and him, it's interesting because you got to like bake and grill and sort of chill and saute 3 or 4 different kinds of mushrooms, 2 different kinds of onions, and then you got to put it all in the phyllo bread, the phyllo dough, and it's actually delicious. That doesn't make me a baker, but
it's like elevated cooking.
yeah.
Right. I've never heard of mushroom Wellington. I've only heard of beef Wellington, but then you said your son was a vegan for a little while, so that makes sense.
Yeah, it was great too, actually.
Your history of who you are, where you came from, how Freedom Reads came to be, I feel like has popped up all over the place at this point. You've been on other podcasts, you've shared the story, there's the article. So I'm excited to dive a little deeper. But for the folks who maybe haven't, they're also late to the party, what's like a little nugget about what Freedom Reads is and sort of how it came to be?
It's the dream of somebody, me, who went to prison when I went to prison when I was 16. I did 8 years, came home when I was 24. And one of the most sort of transformative moments that happened to me while in prison was, getting this book when I was in the hole. It was called Dudley Randall's The Black Poets, and that turned me into a poet. And so years later, I'm out and I had done a lot of things. I published some books. I'd gone to Yale Law School, and somebody asked me, who worked at the Mellon Foundation, still does, what would I do if for people in prison if money wasn't like the impediment? And I said I would put a book in prison for every person we've ever put inside. So I would put millions of books in prison because we put millions of people. And it ultimately became Freedom Reads, and we do it one Freedom Library at a time. And each Freedom Library is a beautiful 500 book collection that we put on the cell block so that when people wake up in the morning and when they go to sleep, they can have that beacon of hope and opportunity that's right there within eyesight.
Yeah, that's really awesome. It's so, to call it cool, to call it admirable, to call it important, all sounds so like twee in the context of the terrible thing that is the prison industrial complex that we have here in this country. But I will say that as a person who came to reading later in life, for you to be so impacted by a book, to say this is an important thing for these folks who are in prison. Why do you think that is? Or why is that? Why books?
I think because books are like, strangely, for those of us who recognize that we may never know enough people, that we may never get the opportunity to do enough things, that candidly we lack a conduit to knowing ourselves better. We need books. We know that books give us permission to see that world as just out of our reach. And to do it for people in prison, it becomes vital because it all becomes about the mechanism and the vehicle by which you do it. So the books become a conduit for so much more. In and of itself, the Freedom Library is a beautiful thing. This is at 1/8 scale
Oh,
model,
wow.
but it curves, it arcs into space, and people stand around the library, and the books are accessible. It sits about 44 inches high, and the books are accessible all around it from everybody. And so I think it in and of itself is a feat. It's an accomplishment, and the books become a vehicle for that and for so much more. And that's why books.
Yeah.
It's that first technology that is still the most important technology, which is the story.
Yeah. Looking back on that, I assume that you weren't that much of a reader prior to that book of poetry. I don't
Oh,
know.
nah, dude. The last man. Look. You know what? How about this? We're gonna do a deal. You got to pay for one Freedom Library if you can't tell me the last book I checked out from the library before I got incarcerated. I'm 16 years old. 1996.
If I can't guess.
If you can't guess, you got to put up the money for One
All right,
Freedom
wait.
Library. Or
First,
you
wait.
listen.
I'm curious. How much does a Freedom Library cost? Dwayne, I take
20,
this seriously.
25,000. 25,000.
Okay.
That's
Um.
labor materials. Remember, it's made out of oak,
Yeah.
walnut,
Yeah. Yeah.
cherry,
Yeah.
finger joints, beautifully done, handcrafted. And our team is about 20 deep now, and 7 of us did time in prison, including people who've done as much as 30 years.
Wow.
But yeah, so it's
And
25,000.
the
That's what's
books,
on the ground now. And the books, yeah. So and that includes the books
right?
as well.
500 books.
Shipment and
Yeah.
delivery,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
all brand new. Because that keeps us from having to deal with the owner's search product process if we got books that were used. But plus, who doesn't want to open a brand new book? And we do that. Some people have never had a brand new book in their life until we come through.
Yeah.
But so that's what's at stake. And you can ask me 3 questions if you think that'll help you.
Interesting. Okay. Was the book new?
No.
Hmm. This is a fun game. Stakes are high.
This is gonna be such a surprising book too. Watch, it's gonna blow your mind when I say
Will
it.
it? So
Hmm.
it's not obvious. Okay.
It is not obvious.
Is it written by a man or a woman?
It's written by a woman.
I'm gonna I'm gonna take a stab. Was it Parable of the Sower?
That's a good guess, but no, it was Dr. Evelyn Wood's Guide to Speed Reading.
What?
Yeah, Dr. Evelyn Wood's Guide to Speed Reading. Yep.
Why did you check that out?
Because I was trying to learn how to read faster, and I couldn't afford
Mm,
the. I used to watch the infomercials, and I was obsessed with the infomercials, and I couldn't afford those toolkits. And I saw that in the library, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna check this out," and this is what's gonna make me be able to read faster. But I was a voracious reader, really since probably the second grade.
hmm.
Um, it's just that I had never read poetry and I never imagined being a poet, and so getting that book turned me into a poet, and that's why it was really significant.
Yeah. So poetry aside for one second, did you getting that book of poetry, was it a nice reminder of that you liked reading once upon a time before
I
that?
do look. So when I get locked up, man, I'm like 5'5", 125 pounds, and I'm going to the GED class. And then after the first class, the woman says, what classes were you in? I'm like, I was in French 4,
Wow.
I was in AP US history, I was in pre-calculus, I was in physics, I was in discrete math. And she looked at me, and she was like, "You remind me of my son." And
Mm,
I looked at her, and I was like, "Oh wow, yo, she colorblind because I'm black and she's white, right?" And I was like, "Wow, you know what I mean?" And and so then she was like, so she reached out to my school, and I ended up getting my high school diploma. But to get my high school diploma, she was like, I had to finish 11th grade and take 12th grade English. And so I
wow.
ended up skipping the 12th grade and get my high school diploma and then going to prison. But I've read so many books. The first book she hit me to, I was trying to read Sophie's World, which was about philosophy, because I could read whatever I want as long as I wrote a book report about it.
Hmm.
And that was about philosophy. And she gets Sophie's Choice, and she's like, Dwayne, you're wrong. There's no such thing as Sophie's World. But I got Sophie's Choice. I think that's what you meant. And I read Sophie's Choice, and I was like, wow, it really changed. Kind of you think that you think suffering, right?
Hmm.
And you think the complexities of the world, and then you read that, and everything is different. I remember this is at the county jail. I read Ernest Gaines, A Lesson Before Dying, and I read it cover to cover without stopping. And so I was a reader.
Wow.
It's just that prison changed. I decided to be a writer when I realized I wasn't going home,
Yeah.
and that changed what I understood reading to be a vehicle for, and I understood it to be a vehicle for freedom.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, you also talk about how having access to a pen and paper, you knew you'd always have access to a pen and paper. And so in turn, you could be a writer as you bend over.
But what I want to show you, you talk about access to a pen. It often came at a cost,
Mm,
and it was never obvious that you would have that access. This is the pen that I used for like 2, 3 years in prison.
wow.
This is it doesn't fit in my hand.
Right.
It's
It's
hurt. I
it's
mean, it's
bendy.
split.
It's yeah.
Can't write with this.
Yeah.
And this is what we were expected to write with for years. And so, yeah, I knew that you would always have access to a pen, but even that is sometimes fleeting. Even that doesn't come in the way that you want it. And that's why I came in more recent years to really lean into the oral tradition and to lean into what it means to learn poems by heart and try to give it to people in that way, because sometimes you might not even have a pen,
Yeah.
and then you really got to go to the old school storytelling.
You have said that the greatest human invention is the story.
Yeah, I really do believe so.
Yeah, no, I'm a really firm believer in that too. And my background is in theater, and I think during COVID, when gathering as a group of people really went away, and I was sort of like, what do I do now? When I really thought and broke down what it is that I love and that I'm passionate about, and that what's important to me and what I want to share with people, it's a good story. It's storytelling, right? And so reminding myself that that doesn't have to be on a stage with a group of people around, and it could be through books, it could be through oral history, it could be through all sorts of things. So it was just a nice reminder.
Well, that's wild because see, I got in the theater during COVID because I did a solo show and I really ramped it up during COVID. And I learned how to like I would just move in the screen, and I had a whole slideshow that was my scene, that was my
Uh
set,
huh.
and then ultimately I went from that to when COVID eased up the restrictions and the travel. I started traveling with the show, and I went from like 10 minutes to 20 minutes to 30 minutes to doing it at universities, doing it in prisons. So ultimately, it was at the Perlman. It was a 90 minute, 1 man theater piece, and it was kind of cool because the stage is beautiful and everything is pretty dope. And so, yeah, I mean, I've been trying to figure out different ways to lean into the idea of story.
Yeah,
So yeah.
that's really awesome. And you have also said that in becoming a writer, you were able to tell your story in a different way. You're able to tell the story about yourself in the way that you want it to be told. What has that experience been like for you?
Well, and also reflect on the different ways you lean into telling it. And so
Mm.
sometimes it's revelatory, sometimes it's like problematic. And it's weird though because I think writing is one thing, and then living in the world is slightly different.
What do you mean?
And so because like as a writer, sometimes you don't you know sometimes I feel like I lived a lot of my years as a writer almost like sequestered off in a bunker.
Mm.
And prison could be the same way because what happens is you're not trying to have conflict, right? And so you live it in the world of your head, but you're sublimating so much of yourself to not have conflict that you're not discovering what it means to mend conflict, what it means to move through conflict, what it means to thrive within that conundrum. Because I say that prison is a sort of I say that it's a sort of churn,
Hmm.
but maybe life is more a conundrum than a churn of what prison is, because the conundrum is that you're always trying to figure out the thing, and it always seems absurd. And so I don't know. I'm trying to move into that different space, and it's complicated and interesting.
Are you? Is there something in particular that you feel like you've learned about that evolution, or maybe learned about you, or learned more about the journey or the process as you're sort of going on?
Yeah, I think the writing in the world part of it. You know what? My previous thing didn't make sense because I got to say that like I went to prison when I was
Yeah.
16, and I came home when I was 24, and it teaches you how to live a certain way. And then I got married, and I had these two sons, and I lived like really in the world, and I lived as a writer, and sometimes I was a professor, and mostly I was a student. And then I get divorced, and I'm single for the first time, and so it's like I'm 44, 45, and I'm experiencing a thing, breakup for the first time,
Mm.
like literal breakup for the first time, not divorced for the first time, but this is like my first girlfriend, so that's a thing.
Yeah.
um, and then living on my own for the first time though, because I basically didn't live on my own before we started living together, right? But then I'm also the CEO of Freedom Reads, and that means I'm experiencing building an organization. And the building of the organization means that I'm both experiencing walking away and knowing that I can't walk away at the same time.
Mm.
And I think I'm trying to say something about living in the world taught me something different than what I was learning as a writer. But maybe that's not fair. What I just mean to say is that living in the world was happening so profoundly and radically differently. And I was trying to write my way through it and talk my way through it, that I was learning new lessons in ways that was just far more. And sometimes it was happening, quicker than I could absorb,
Hmm.
because prison gives you space to shut down. It gives you space to like renege on relationships and your commitments.
Mm.
But sometimes life doesn't, because you realize that you value what it means to like
To
to
live.
deal with it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah, like in a real profound way. I got a poem about it. That is literally I got a poem that it was really about that.
Do you
It's
want to read
called
it?
yeah. Let me see if I can find it. I say let me see if I can find it. Like I don't know how to look at the table of
It's
contents.
okay.
It's called Roadkill. I bike at 3 in the morning. So this is the first book I've ever written where everything is true. Like every line, every eye is me, every story is me.
Oh, wow.
And then this is the cover.
Doggerel.
Roadkill. It's 3:41 a.m. And already I have biked the mile from my first cell to the chow hall a half a dozen times, if at all. And my body is tired enough, and I admit to no longer wanting any of this. The stars acknowledge no one at this time of betwixt and between, and there is nobody to call. And a dead black thing in the street is an animal until I get close enough to see that it's only a bag flitting in the wind. We've all been mistaken for something less alive in this life, I know. As I stop my bike before a liquor store holding whiskey that no longer drowns. And remember, standing beneath a flyer with a black girl dancing under Basquiat's crown, forgetting who loves you is the easiest way to vanish.
You have previously said that having an audience of one is still an audience, and
Yes.
so I was honored to be your audience for that. So thank you.
Oh man, I appreciate that. Yeah, you know what I mean? That's I call it random acts of poetry. And
Hmm.
it's when you offer somebody something that they didn't expect. And it's cool because it makes you vulnerable. You know, you get a chance to have somebody affirm your existence as a writer or say, try again. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it was cool. You know what I mean? But hey, look, hey, everybody you gotta be somebody. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
maybe the next one I'll like. No, don't read me another one now. But maybe next time. My email, no. I don't have email.
So you had talked about this book in prison of poetry was your gateway to poetry, and you've
Yeah.
since gone on to write poetry. Poetry clearly matters and means a lot to you, and is a worthwhile thing for you to be putting out into the world. To someone who says, "What the hell, man? Poetry, I don't get it. It's too esoteric. It's not for me." What would you say to that person?
Let me read you a poem.
Yeah.
I'd be like, look, my ex don't believe in my sadness. She say whiskey. She say whiskey. She say whiskey in that time left me wrecked after prison. And she might be right. My liver awash in all but the dregs of a charred oak cast, soaked in barley's amber, shadowed as blood, dim as a sail in the hole. And then, after that, when I'm finished, maybe they say, look, I don't know, I never really liked poetry, but I like that one.
Yeah.
And what you're doing is creating an opportunity for somebody to hear something that might change the way they think about the world.
Mm.
I don't actually care how they think about poetry. I'm hoping that what I say might change the way they think about the world, at least for a second, at least for a moment.
So thinking about new ways of thinking about the world, what you're doing with Freedom Reads is really showcasing the world, right? You're sticking 500 books in an environment that otherwise doesn't have it. There's no budget for a library in a prison.
Yeah.
Have you Are there any specific things that come to mind that, whether it's like a letter you got from someone or someone sharing with
Oh,
you about how the world, how they changed the way they saw the world?
I mean, look, it's so many things. And the thing about saying it's so many things is like, one, I would encourage people to go to our website
Mm-hmm.
because, we curate and collect a lot of these stories, freedomreads.org. But man, what's amazing is that we hear it. We hear people just say, um, a book is a very good thing to have. I
Mm,
wish I was like that when I was younger. Nowadays, it's just good to have a book. Depending on what's in the book, I want to read something that's going to build my mind up. That's just one person.
yeah.
It's I'd advise everyone to pick up a book and broaden your horizons and truly become free.
Hmm.
When you read people like Maya Angelou, she's been through things that most of us will never understand, and we're actually able to look into her soul through her work. Amazing.
Wow.
I mean, people come, and the thing is like, and then people call us, and it becomes like literally like the work doesn't stop because,
Lawrenceville
and
Correctional.
I never do this,
To
but
accept this free call, press 0. To refuse this free call, thank you for using GTL.
hey, Jermaine, hey Jermaine, hold on for a second. I'm on the podcast, man, and I had to hold on for a second though. But so what happens is that people call me, and people call me, but they call me to tell me how important the Freedom Library has been.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, my man Jermaine, he called me one time. He get the newsletter, and for him, what was important was who we hire on the team. He was impressed that our team includes people who have been in prison and served time in prison, like he and I. That it include like that people who worked for me across the spectrum of races, of genders, of sexualities, because we didn't grow up in communities where we saw that, but also we didn't grow up in communities where people who were formerly incarcerated were allowed to read.
Mm.
And we get to represent all of that. And so you have so many quotes of people saying that. People, in fact, man, this dude sent a check, $10,000. He's currently in prison, serving life. John J. Lennon, he's a writer. He sent us a check for $10,000 because he wants to make sure that we got the support to bring a Freedom Library to the prison where he is.
Wow.
I'm so glad your listeners are going to give that $25,000 up that you owe.
Listen,
me. You know what I mean?
we're gonna. I've made a promise. We're gonna collect it all. We're gonna make it happen.
That's right. Hey, yo, you should come in with us too. Like, I'm for real. Like, we actually bring people from the community inside. Because think about this though, right? You gotta, because we keep talking about 500 books, and what does that mean? And what does the bookcase mean? I don't know if your viewers or listeners will be able to see this, but each bookcase is curved.
Mm-hmm.
Each one weighs 100 pounds, and so 3 of them make up the library. And we go to a prison, say it's 15, let's say it's 10 cell blocks at that prison. So we have 30 bookcases that come in, 3 for each cell block. And then we have 500 books for each cell block. So when we get to the cell block, they already organized library 1, 2, 3, up to 15. All of the books are in boxes, cardboard boxes, wrapped in plastic. So me, you, some guy, we come in, we tell the guys inside or the women who we are, what we do. And then like 8 of us or 9 of us, we work together, opening up the boxes, taking the books out and shelving the libraries. And what's beautiful about it is even if you're a reader, I've done this now. We open up about 620 freedom libraries across 14 states and about 60 prisons. Every single time I've done it. So that's 500 cell blocks that I've been in.
Yeah.
I mean, all of us, these dudes have done time in prison 30 years and they go back time and time again. Every single time it's felt like the first time. Like, I'm like, oh man, I hadn't thought about this book in a while. And there's always a book that changed my life. There's always a book that meant something to me. Or it's a book that I wanted to read, that I look forward to read.
Mm. You've said that Charles Dickens is the most prominent writer to ever visit an American prison. And that is what I want to commit to you to help change.
Okay. So wait a minute. So that means you're going to help me become a best-selling author? Because I go into prisons all the time. You know what I mean? I'm going to be the most prominent writer that's ever gone into a prison. We just got to boost my rep.
Yes, everyone go get Doggerel. But also, listen, there are a lot of writers all over the country. And
no, seriously,
we got to change that.
I won't name their names, but it's a few people that we're working on who I'm trying. So one of the things that we do is like, what is a library?
Yeah.
And when you think about a library, like, the library in Egypt, or when you think about the New York Public Library, when you think about these iconic institutions, one of the reasons why we partner with architects at Mass Design to build this is because we wanted it to have the same gravity as an institution, and as a design object, it's actually beautiful because we intended it to be beautiful. But one of the things that you have happen at those institutions is you have iconic people come. And so that's what we're working on now. The next phase of this is to make sure. Now, you know about the Inside Literary Prize, right?
Yes, I do. The
Inside
very first one.
Prize. Yeah. And so, that's where we have people that's currently incarcerated that judge. The first prize is awarded and judged by those who are currently incarcerated. And we base it on the previous year, the National Book Award finalists in fiction and translation. But when we think about things like that, we're trying to raise the profile of the work we do and then get somebody that has an even, we want the next Pulitzer Prize winner to come into a prison with us. We want the last 5 Pulitzer Prize winners and National Book Award winners and MacArthur winners to come inside of a prison with us.
I'm excited by this idea. We're going to figure it out.
I'm glad we're going to make it happen. Yeah.
Listen,
cool. Book
events are boring and I like to make them fun. And
I'm good, yo. We're gonna do one
Yeah.
because I like to make book events. I'm telling you, I'm My thing is like if somebody comes to the event, it should feel like an event. And so I say one person or 50 people. But if you ask somebody, when I go into a prison, I try to make sure that people enjoy it. I'm gonna make sure that you laugh,
Right.
make sure that you smile. I threw a book at somebody in the prison once.
Be careful,
Hey,
Dwayne.
Jermaine, remember when I threw the book at dude?
Yeah, man, that was crazy, man. Yeah, and you knew him the whole way. Y'all knew each other. And
Yeah.
you told the story. You told the story, and then when you threw the book to the guy, it was the guy that you was telling the story about when you was incarcerated. That was
Man,
crazy.
fucked me
That was
up.
crazy.
When he stood up and I was like, "Oh, are you?" And he was like, "Yeah." I couldn't believe it, man. And my thing is, every event is an opportunity to have something miraculous happen. That's what I deeply believe. And if you pay attention to who's in a room and you open up to the room, something will happen that you just would not have expected. So people were like, "Did you know that was Popeye? Why would I know that's him?" Well, I mean, literally, it was 20 years ago
Yeah.
when we met. Like, why would I expect him to show up in this prison at that time? It brought tears to my eyes.
Right.
It was like one of those moments that you wouldn't believe me if I told you.
Is there anything he's reading right now?
Hey, Jermaine, what you reading right now, man?
What, book-wise?
Yeah.
Well, actually, I ain't reading nothing at the moment. At the moment, I'm not. At the very moment, I'm not. Reopening it up this week, right? So it should be open up tomorrow or Thursday.
Hold up, what? You can't just go to the library in your cell block?
Oh, they bring them around like once every 2 weeks, right?
Y'all ain't got the Freedom Library in y'all cell block there, huh?
No, they ain't got that joint here.
But you know about them though, right?
Yeah, the Freedom Read, yeah.
That's
They got them it's at Buckingham, St. Brad's, Green Rock, and
Dillon.
I think it's one more, right?
Is that Dillon? Dillon. Yeah.
Dillon.
Now see,
Dillon, yeah.
this is I'm on a podcast right now, right? And this is the thing, it's the Gays Reading Podcast. And this is the thing that I didn't know you were gonna call. So now you telling the people where Freedom Reads is, but you also just explain, because one of the questions was why do we need to have Freedom Reads? And my man Jason was explaining correctly the reason why we need to have it is because oftentimes it's not a budget for a library. But you just explained too that right now you at a prison that doesn't have a Freedom Reads library on the cell block, and so you can't go to the library every day because the library was closed. They just opened the joint back up. So there you go. That's why we're necessary. And you would think that I set this up on purpose.
I know it does feel that way, but of course you didn't.
But because I was so busy, man. I've been in meetings all day, so my man called me, and I'm like, and I ain't been able to answer the phone. And I appreciate you being cool with me answering the phone because I wanted him to know that I wasn't ignoring the call, but I was like, I was in these meetings. I be doing this all the time though, and I appreciate it because like this is a part of my life that I value. I value being able to be on a podcast and talk to you about books, and I value the fact that like we build the Freedom Libraries for people like Jermaine.
Yeah.
The reason why he ain't telling you what book he's reading right now is because the library ain't accessible. He works in the kitchen.
Right.
So the thing he didn't tell you is that he works in the kitchen, and so he's working 40 hours a week in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So even if he could go to the library whenever he wanted, if it's not on a cell block, he's not going to be able to get there unless he wants to lose his job. And he's in school, and he's doing programming. So when is he supposed to have an opportunity to go to the library?
Yeah.
But if he had it on his cell block, that could be another part of the way that he enriches his day, and that could be another part of the way that he grows.
Yeah.
Now, fortunately, I know that he gets by and that he is doing, the work of building his own character. But I also know that means that he just missing out. He can't read my book right now because it ain't
Right.
on the Freedom Library.
Right.
It ain't there. But we're gonna make sure that happens, especially because you're gonna kick out that $25.
Hell yeah! Does Jermaine have a book that changed his life?
Hey yo, you got a book that changed your life, man, that you want to talk about? Because we're gonna put you on the spot. Now you're a part of this podcast too.
Well, actually, I never had a book that changed my life. You know what I mean? But I did, read some interesting books. During this my journey of this incarceration. You know what I mean? I have read some books that that caught my attention, but it changed my life. Now, I haven't read that book yet.
What caught your attention?
And the books. Well, I can use your book, Felon, as an example. You know what I mean? Or just like.
I can rock with that. With that. Yeah,
that's a good friend.
That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Like Felon, reading that book and, doing knowing that you did time or we did time together, you know what I mean? And then, reading the things that, you went through, the things your family went through, you know what I mean? During your incarceration, and then see you, get out and prosper and do it makes you believe that you can do anything, like anything is possible. So it's like a confidence, you know what I mean, within yourself. You know what I mean? Reading, Dwayne books, sir, I don't know your name, but just reading his books, it's like a confidence, a confidence builder. It puts you in a state where you can, that you can believe in yourself.
Oh yeah, you did because he was I went to his prison. I did a talk at his prison, Jason, a few months ago. That was kind of cool. It was back in Virginia, and I brought my books in. I brought this MLK book in that I wrote the afterword for. Yeah.
So reading, man, it always exercises your mind. You know what I mean? And Dwayne putting these libraries and these prisons, man. Newsletters from Freedom's Read, and and it tells you, and you can see the importance what the libraries means to be in prison. They right there on the cell block, so they're available to you 24 hours a day. You know what I mean? And that's needed.
Jermaine, one of the few people that know me as people call, he done seen people call me Dwayne, Reginald, and Shaheed. So at this point, if he say anything else positive about me, you're gonna think he baked in.
Jermaine,
so I'm gonna let him keep listening. I'm gonna let him keep listening if he got a minute.
Jermaine, thanks for sharing all of that.
Yeah. So what else you got for me, Jason?
I mean, how could we go beyond that? Are you kidding?
I know, right? This was really cool. It's one of the great things about it is like I think it's the unexpected.
Yeah.
And when you open yourself up to possibilities, you just never know what happens. And it was, and it's interesting too because when you get the call, I know it's from prison, but I don't necessarily know who it is.
Yeah.
And there's a few folks that call me too, and so it's always a bit of a surprise. It's like I didn't know. Oh, good. I'm happy to hear from you. Sometimes it's somebody that you really ain't heard from in a minute. If it's somebody that's like younger and that just went in, you'd be frustrated. But usually, it's been for me. Fortunately, most of the people, it's a struggle to get them out. And so when I hear from them, I know that we still fighting. You know what I mean? So it's cool. It's usually something I need to be updated on, or update them on, or sometimes I'm lucky and they just call in and check in.
Yeah. Or
I'm just getting a chance to check in on them.
Yeah. Well, I want you to go check in with Jermaine. If it's okay with him, I would love to include him on the podcast.
Hey, Jermaine, you good?
Cool. That's cool.
Awesome.
That's cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you both. Everyone, go
you,
check out freedomreads.org. Check out the book. I'm so happy for you, and I can't wait for everyone to learn about all the things.
I appreciate it, man. We're going to make it happen. And seriously, just, we're going to stay in touch. And when you want to, come inside and open the library with us.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, everyone. Thank you again so much for being here. Make sure to check out Doggerel wherever you get your books out now. Dwayne's Book of Poems. Check out Freedom Reads. I mean, what an incredible organization. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you next week. Bye.